How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether price is going up or down. Kraken Crypto Exchange plans to delist Monero. So this will be for two countries. It'll be for Ireland and Belgium. This will happen beginning June 10th, 2024. As of May 10th, 2024, trading and deposits will be halted for XMR. This is the privacy coin. All margin positions will need to be closed by May 10th, or these positions will be auto-closed. We will halt withdrawals of XMR on Kraken on June 10th. At this time, any remaining XMR balances will be automatically converted into Bitcoin. There's really not much more useful there. SEC puts DeFi in its sights with potential Uniswap lawsuit. So the SEC sent out a Wells notice. This is disclosed today. A Wells notice typically shows that the SEC wants to sue a company for a particular reason. The two speculative reasons are them being involved with distributing Tornado Cash. Developers were found not able to be found guilty because they were only developers of the contracts, not how users use them. Uniswap allows users to use the coin, so there's a little concern there. The regulator could also claim that they are an unregistered security, just like they did against Ripple and Coinbase. So there's those two suits they could have against them. I would watch. This could develop into some bad precedent for the rest of the space if they do win, but they do think that Uniswap could beat the SEC in this case. Over on the dollar index, we did go up a little bit. We do have a little indecisive candle. I would watch for a strong red candle to follow this. That could pull us beyond this area and drop us lower. That would break this Fibonacci retracement zone and set us up for some losses. Real quick, remember we are using Market Cipher B and Market Cipher A. These are free tools within TradingView, which is also free. Market Cipher A, you will change your style to as following, your inputs to as following, your opacity for your style is 70%. Then yours will look like mine. Market Cipher B, change the purple wave to blue. It says it's blue, but it's purple. So we could continue to pull back and sell off if we see a strong red candle. But if we follow this with some momentum on the lower time frames, we could continue this push forward. That would lead to the crypto market probably selling off even more, because remember, the dollar index and the crypto market usually trade inversely, meaning if Dixie goes up, crypto typically goes down. Stochastic, our double line here on Market Cipher B, does want to push forward. RSI, the red line, is pushing forward. We do have our blue above our orange on that stochastic. When blue is above orange, we have a bullish strength, a bullish cross. That bullish cross can propel RSI forward. In this case, RSI really can't go further, but it stands for the relative strength index, and it shows if your asset is overbought or oversold. Currently, we're pretty overbought. We have been overbought for quite some time, while we have been within this range over here. So just exercise caution. When you typically stretch out in an overbought area, you can pull back and start to sell off. We got a little bit of a sell-off right here, but then we wound up right back where we were. Our VWAP, our yellow wave, these trade independent of our RSI and stochastic. They're different. Again, in our Mastering the Trade series, we cover how these work. Visit our RSI and stochastic video, then the video after, and Market Cipher B will make a lot more sense to you, I promise. VWAP is like 10 minutes of your life too. VWAP wants to push forward, momentum wants to gain strength, stochastic's trying to push up, and the RSI wants to push forward. So we are trying to smash our way forward to smash the thumbs up. Over on the 4 hour, we could be trying to make a flag, as we are trying to consolidate in this range. We did attempt to get a kind of break forward. We tried to get a bearish engulfing candle, and now we're stagnating. If we do not lose this Fibonacci range here, we could make a flag, try to push forward, and propel up. However, if we see strong red candles here, we're likely going to lose this green EMA, get a push to our blue EMA, and then we could start losing other EMAs if we do not find any support. Stochastic does want to pull back here. We do have our orange above blue, so watch, as that is a bearish cross. Remember, blue above orange, bullish, orange above blue, bearish. RSI does want to pull back. Our momentum is rounding away. We have a red dot. As this VWAP, the momentums are blue wave. As this VWAP is pulling into that bearish territory, its bearish territory is below zero. When it's above zero, it's bullish, meaning it can increase. When we're bearish, we typically sell off. So if this VWAP continues lower, momentum can continue lower, and our money flow would remain more bearish and can continue to sell off. That would not be very good for the daily, because if the 4 hour starts breaking away here, the daily likely would start to break down as well. Over on this 2 hour, stochastic's pulling back, momentum has a bearish divergence, VWAP is pulling back, and the money flow did break bearish as well. If we continue to see the stochastic and VWAP favor more bearish here, we will continue to push down, and then we could have the possibility of breaking this Fibonacci level. Again, if we get that rejection off this EMA on our lower time frames, that can lead to the EMA starting to reject on higher time frames and starting to fill that scenario we mentioned. Over on this 1 hour, this is more of a straight channel here, so this would have been your flag. We tried to get that break up for the flag, and then we dropped down and pulled back into where our pattern would be. So if we trend lower and we break the Fibonacci zone here, we're likely going to see the bears gain control. That would be positive for crypto because crypto would then go up. But if we can push above this green EMA, we could attempt to push forward, break our 105 and continue up. Right now, our VWAP is more bearish, momentum is pulling back, and the money flow is starting to weaken. If our VWAP remains more bearish, we will start a bearish trend on our momentum, money flow will start to sell off, and the 1 hour will start to break down. If that continues over a prolonged period of time, we will see those higher time frames start to push down as well. Over on our total here, we could be making a rising channel. Remember, I use the parallel channel for these because it's easier to use. That would be right here. So this would be an exclusion where we wicked out, attempted to invalidate the pattern or get early breakdown. As a rising channel like this is a bearish pattern that can break us lower and give us that push below that 674 that we have been warning about. RSI wants to pull back, stochastic wants to round, money flow is starting to sell off, VWAP could break into the bearish territory. If it remains bearish, momentum will start to pull back, money flow will lose strength, and then we could get that push through that 674 and start to push toward that golden pocket, which if we get near the golden pocket, remember we could have a quick move down from. Over on the 4 hour here, we did hit this resistance, we pulled back, we have a manipulation X. This manipulation X is starting to make our lower EMAs pull below our higher EMAs. If this trend continues, we will start to lose price action here and we will trend lower. RSI is starting to weaken, stochastic wants to round away. Have VWAP broken into the bearish territory, momentum is rounding away as well. So if the VWAP gets a rejection here, momentum will continue lower, money flow will then break into the bearish territory, and we could see the 4 and daily start to break down as well. Over on this 2 hour, that manipulation X here carried over. We are starting to consolidate after getting a breakdown. If we're not careful, if we come down to that 300 EMA, we could end up breaking it and pushing lower, as this does create a bear flag, which typically brings you down. Since the breakdown point isn't very long, we don't have very far to go. It would pretty much bring us right down to the bottom of our pattern. Stochastic wants to pull back. RSI is starting to stagnate, so watch that stochastic. If stochastic continues lower, RSI will start to break down and bring price action lower with it. Momentum is pulling back as our VWAP was favoring bearish. If our VWAP gets a lower high, then pulls back for consistent or lower lows, we could see the bears gain some control. Money flow is bullish, it's starting to round away, so I would watch that VWAP closely. Over on the 1 hour, RSI is starting to round, stochastic does want to round with it, so watch if that stochastic gets a bearish cross. If it gets a bearish cross, our RSI could start to drop and bring price action lower, rejecting this 300 EMA. If we reject this 300 EMA and break the bottom of our channel, that's likely where we will get that break to 674. Momentum's pulling back with the red dot, and VWAP is pushing down, so I would exercise caution here. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we do have an indecision candle. This candle could end up bringing us down if we are not careful. I would exercise caution. If we look over on the lower time frames, technically we do have this wick that shows we broke down. But if you look on the lower time frames, that push down was pretty much where the channel started, so it's a little deceiving. So if we zoom back in, we are above this green EMA. If we can continue above this green EMA, that would be positive. That would give us the possibility to get our push forward. I'm zooming out for that push, so that could be right around that value area high, right around that 55% where it's moved to now. So if we continue seeing green candles, we could end up breaking that. If we break and hold, that would be very positive for Bitcoin to go up, at least against the rest of the market. Stochastic does want to round overall. It is trying to get a bit of a rebound, so watch for further green candles. VWAP is trying to break bullish. Momentum does have a green dot, so if our momentum can continue a push here, our money flow could continue forward and make a bounce off neutral. Over on this 4 hour, you can see this little bit of a push down. So we are going to delete this channel, as this channel did not happen and there is no possibility for it to continue. You could stretch it out if you want. Consider this price action part of the channel. Then we could end up breaking down. That would give us a slightly higher breakdown point, because that is changing the pattern slightly and moving us further up. Stochastic does want to round, RSI wants to pull back, VWAP does want to pull back, momentum wants to sell off, and that money flow is at risk of breaking down. If the lower time frames favor more bearishly, we could end up seeing that push down. Here we are technically pushing out of this channel. Actually, we're pushing the bottom of the channel, so we could end up breaking down if we're not careful. We are losing this green EMA. This could end up giving us a push right around that 54. If we lose that 54 where we've consolidated before, that's where we could get pushed through that 300 EMA and possibly a breakdown if we do not bounce there. VWAP wants to pull back, money flow is selling off, momentum is trying to round with the red dot as that VWAP wants to break down, so I would exercise caution. Stochastic is rounding and the RSI is starting to round as well. Over on this 1 hour, we are coming up to the bottom of our pattern, just zigzagging around. We don't know where we want to go right now. Stochastic wants to pull back, RSI is flat, VWAP's in the bearish territory, and the money flow is pulling back. So if we follow this with a strong red candle, we could break out of this channel, start that breakdown, and trend lower if we're not careful. Over on Bitcoin futures for the daily, we did get a decent amount of our move forward yesterday, and now we're struggling. We've gone pretty flat. VWAP is pretty flat. It is in the bullish territory, but I would watch the lower time frames. If our lower time frames start to pull back in favor of bearish, we likely will snap back into the bearish territory. That would result in momentum pulling back, and money flow could then break back toward a bearish trend if we're not careful. Over on the 4 hour, we do have lower highs, so watch out. We did wick down to fill this gap that we did warn you about from yesterday. So we did technically fill it. We could continue forward from here. That would be the bullish case scenario from here. That would give us the possibility of a continuation. However, if we break back into this zone, lose that blue EMA, then we're likely going to trend lower, and we could then break our 69K and try to trend towards 65K again if we're not careful. Stochastic's pulling back, RSI is pulling back, momentum's starting to sell off, money flow is rounding, and the VWAP does want to reject neutral. Over on the 2 hour, we are starting to round away here. If we lose these EMAs, we could start to trend lower. Stochastic selling off, RSI is rounding, momentum selling off. VWAP does want to break down. We have a lower high. If we get a lower low with this VWAP, our yellow wave, we will see our blue wave, our momentum pull back, and our money flow will sell off as well, resulting in price action selling off. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a gap to the upside. So like I mentioned on the higher time frames where we came down, filled that gap, you really don't see the gap here on the lower time frame. This does give us that possibility to push forward, fill that higher gap, and trend up from there. If we see this VWAP break bullish, momentum would then need to break bullish. Money flow could make a bounce off neutral. That would give us the possibility to break forward. But if our VWAP rejects here, momentum will continue lower, and the bears will gain control. Over on Bitcoin for the daily, we did come up to the top of our flag. We are kind of struggling to break above it, but if we can break out of it, we may be able to push to the top of this channel. If we can invalidate the top of the channel and our Fibonacci range, then we could get our break toward 92K still. Stochastic wants to pull back, momentum's starting to pull back with our VWAP selling off, so I would watch the lower time frames, watch if that VWAP favors more bearish. Money flow is starting to pull back, so if momentum sells off, money flow could break toward the neutral as well. Over on the 4-hour, we are rounding away, but we're trying to make a bounce off these lower EMAs. If we continue to bounce off the lower EMAs here, and they start to split away from our higher EMAs, we could see the bulls gain control. RSI is pulling back, stochastic does want to round. VWAP is starting to pull back toward that neutral and it wants to break bearish. Momentum is rounding away with the red dot. So overall, I would exercise caution, but if we can get a higher low on this VWAP and push forward from this neutral, we could see a bullish trend form and push us forward still. Over on the 2-hour, stochastic's pulling back, RSI is selling off, momentum is pulling back, VWAP is starting to reject that neutral. If that VWAP continues to reject that neutral, we could see momentum break bearish, money flow would flip away, and we would see those higher time frames start to reject away as well. Over on this 1-hour, we do have 2 manipulation X's. Remember, when they're in pairs, usually you break down more violently. That could mean we may break this 300 EMA. I would watch if we break that 300 EMA, we could end up trending lower. RSI wants to pull back, stochastic wants to round. VWAP is in that bearish territory and bringing momentum lower, so if that VWAP and momentum continue to pull back here, money flow could break neutral, break into the bearish territory, and flip those higher time frames into a bearish trend over a prolonged period of time. So over on graph here, we are pushing down toward the bottom of our channel. If we are not careful, we could end up breaking it, so I would watch our lower time frames. VWAP does want to pull back, stochastic wants to round, RSI is pulling back, momentum is pushing down, and the money flow does want to sell off. So overall, I would exercise caution here. Over on this 4-hour, we are breaking that resistance of our 31,954. RSI is pulling back, stochastic's rounding off, VWAP is in the bearish territory. If it remains more bearish, we could see it reject neutral. That would result in us breaking away from this channel. Momentum is favoring bearish and money flow is pulling back. So again, watch if that VWAP breaks neutral and holds above. If it doesn't, the bears could gain control here. Over on the 2-hour, stochastic's pulling back, RSI is losing strength, VWAP is getting lower lows with lower highs, so I would exercise caution as that's making our momentum favor bearish and bring our money flow down. If this continues, we will see the higher time frames start to pull back as well. Over on this 1-hour, stochastic does want to round, RSI is pulling back, VWAP is starting to pull back with a lower high. If we break for a consistent or lower low, we will have a bearish trend still. Our momentum and money flow would then pull back, and those higher time frames could then sell off. So again, exercise caution here. Over on ankr for the daily, we did try to kind of trend away from this channel. I'm going to delete this line, so we got a little bit of a break toward this Fibonacci zone, then we pulled back and rejected. So overall, we could have this channel invalidated, and we could end up trending lower. I'm going to delete it at this time. Stochastic's pulling back, VWAP's pulling back. If that VWAP remains bearish, we could end up seeing momentum continue to weaken. As that momentum would continue to weaken, money flow would then sell off, and price action could then get strong swings to the bearish territory. Over on this 4-hour, we do have a descending channel. It did try to break us forward, but then we got rejected by resistance. RSI is pulling back, stochastic's selling off, VWAP's pulling back, money flow is in the bearish territory, and the momentum is starting to pull back as well. If we continue to lose these EMAs and see our lower EMAs curl under, we will see the bears gain more control and push us lower. Over on this 2-hour, we are breaking these lower EMA or higher EMAs, and lower EMAs are pulling below them. Again, if that trend continues, bears could gain significant strength. Stochastic wants to pull back, RSI is pulling back, VWAP is in the bearish territory, momentum is rejecting neutral, so we do have quite a bit of bearish strength here. I would watch if that VWAP rejects or makes it lower high. If either of those happen, we could end up with some bearish favor to push us toward that 5172, much like we have been warning about. Over on this 1-hour, we are struggling to break our 300 EMA. Just like everything else, if we cannot hold above this 300 EMA, we're likely going to trend lower. Stochastic does want to round, RSI is pulling back, VWAP does want to break bullish, momentum's trying to push up, but if we continue seeing red candles, VWAP could snap back down, money flow would then reject, and the bears could then gain control of the 1 hour and start to gain control of the higher time frames as well. Over on XRP for the daily, we did come up to our point control and we got rejected. Stochastic's pulling back, RSI is pulling back, VWAP's starting to pull back, momentum is starting to round, and the money flow is losing some steam. If that VWAP continues lower, momentum will make a complete rejection, and money flow will make a break of that neutral, so I would watch our lower time frames from here. Over on our 4 hour, we hit that 300 EMA, tried to make a bounce, and now we have a manipulation X trying to bring this back down. If we break this 300 EMA, we're likely going to trend lower. RSI is selling off, Stochastic's pushing down, momentum has bearish divergence, VWAP is favoring bearish, and the money flow is barely in the bullish territory. If that VWAP breaks down here and we break that EMA, we could see a break of our 57 and then trend lower if we're not careful. Over on this 2 hour, we did break our 300 EMA, so exercise caution. If we stay below it here, we will break on that 4 hour. RSI is pulling back, Stochastic's pulling back, VWAP is rejecting neutral, momentum's favoring bearish, and the money flow is in jeopardy of breaking neutral. If that VWAP continues lower here, momentum will continue down, and that money flow will break that neutral, resulting in the higher time frame starting to weaken. Over on the 1 hour, we are trying to bounce off that 300 EMA here. If that can continue on the 1 hour, we may pull above it on the 2 hour. You may notice they're a little different. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually the time frames follow each other. Stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is pulling back. VWAP's in the bearish territory. Momentum is curling away, and the money flow does want to pull back through this neutral. If we see red candles here, we're likely going to break that 300 EMA, then trend lower. However, if we follow this with a strong green candle, we could make a rounding bottom, then continue forward. Over on algo for the daily, we tried to continue this double bottom possibility by pushing above this green EMA, but we got rejected. This could end up being a hammer candle that could end up pulling us down. It's also a long upper shadow that shows buyers tried to push us up and sellers brought us lower. RSI is weakening, Stochastic's rounding, money flow selling off, VWAP does want to break bearish, watch those lower time frames, and the momentum does want to pull back as a result, so the money flow is losing strength. Again, watch those lower time frames. If they remain more bearish, we could break down. So you can see we continued along our trend line, and then we got that rejection. So I am going to delete this possibility, as I do not think it could happen anymore. We could end up making some sort of inverted shoulder or something else. This may be a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder to bring us lower. Exercise caution on that. But I would just exercise caution all the way around, as the rest of the market's not too positive. Stochastic does want to round away here on the 4 hour. RSI is pulling back. VWAP's breaking bearish. Momentum's pulling back. And the money flow does want to reject neutral. So overall, exercise caution. Watch the lower time frames. Over on this 2 hour, we are rejecting that EMA here. If we cannot break above that low EMA, we will continue a bearish trend and start to trend lower. This is also a long upper shadow. Stochastic is pulling back, RSI is selling off, and the VWAP is pulling under that neutral, giving that momentum bearish strength. If this continues, money flow will continue lower and price action will start to break. So I would watch a break of this zone. If we break below where we are right now, that 2272, then we break below this 2226, we could see a pretty strong move down to areas that we have mentioned in our previous videos. Over on the 1 hour, green is well below this blue. If we continue to trend below the green EMA, we will continue lower. RSI is pulling back, VWAP's in the bearish territory, momentum's pulling back, and the stochastic does want to round. So overall, I would exercise caution here. If we cannot break through these EMAs, we may start to lose price action and start to break all these other support areas. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night.